All right, so today I want to talk about adding some actual Phonegap API capabilities to our app. And this is a JavaScript layer that allows you to access the sensors and the various applications on the phone as if you were a native app. And so you can get to a lot more than if you just did a jQuery mobile and things like that. So first of all, I've already created this file. I don't want to type it all in. And I put it out on my GitHub account. So inside of PHP Storm, we can check out using the version control system straight from GitHub. So I'm going to do a checkout from version control and say GitHub. And enter a password. Log into my GitHub account. And GitHub has its own API that allows it to query and see all of the different repositories that I have on my GitHub account. So I can scroll through here and pick one of them that I've already uploaded, and I'm going to use this one that I've been working on. So this is specifically my Android camera-phonegap.git. And this is a public one. You could actually download that, I believe, yourself. So I'm going to clone that. Come on. It's working down here. And it says it's going to create a new directory on my local computer, and I'm going to have it open into this window. So this is my project that I've already been working on. And these are the files that I have. So I have an index.html file, and I have a JavaScript file, which is the actual Phonegap JavaScript file that I have to include. So to get that file, you go to the Phonegap site itself. Let's go back to Phonegap. And you can download Phonegap. Let's load this and show you what it contains. I did it once, I think, already, but yeah, it added a one. All right, so this is what you get in the Phonegap, and it's got lots of information. It has all of the docs that are on the site as HTML files with a bunch of getting started guides. And you also have this library folder that has the various build platforms that it works on. Now, each build platform uses a different library because they're specifically accessing sensors from a Windows phone or an iPhone or an Android phone. No, actually, what's nice is that when I upload it and I just am accessing any single Cordova JS file, it will replace it with the right version in the build system. Okay, so I don't have to include all of these. But to get one of them going, it's got an example here, and I can go look at the source files. Let's see, where is it? This is the Android version, and this is the JS file that I copied into my JS folder here. Okay, now you really don't need this locally at all unless you're going to build in the local Eclipse environment for Android or Xcode for iPhone, etc. So you don't have to have those, and the application, the build system on Phonegap, build.phonegap.com will actually insert the right code for you. So right here is I have to include the JavaScript somewhere, and they actually look at your code, they look at your HTML page, and they see, okay, he's trying to load this 2.7 version in, and if you're building for iPhone, it will replace that with the iPhone version. Okay, so that's the only line you have to add. And then the rest of this is JavaScript to actually access the phone. Yes?
Do they have Cordova out on a server that you can call directly?
No. No. Because they're going to replace it for you anyway, so there was no reason for that. And when it gets deployed, it's deployed as an app, not an HTML page anyway, so it kind of gets lost in there.
I was just thinking if they had it on CDN, then you could just say, this
Yeah.
is the CDN, this is the version of Cordova I want to use, and it would replace it in the build system.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to have it copied down.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so this is a very simple page. It's got 4 buttons on it, and it's got a place to put some images. I'm going to replace those images with what I capture from the camera. And I got this file from, I thought I put this in here. There's a gist file that had this code, so I did not write this myself. I copied this off the internet on how to access the phone system. Okay, so it's not. Notice it's not using jQuery at all. It's using an on-click embedded JavaScript function. Okay, so you could convert this into jQuery, and I tried this last night, and it kept failing. So I reverted back to this version. So at least this works to a point, and shows you what's happening. So if I click on this, let's go this capture with file. If I click on this, it's going to execute this function in the JavaScript code that I have above, which is capture photo with file, which is this function right here. So I click on that button. It's going to call the navigator.camera.getPicture, which is the API that I showed you. If I look at the Phonegap API, I lost my stuff here. Really? So let's look at the docs and look at the camera. And again, we can skip all of this stuff at the top. This is if I was building using a config.xml file, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to use the Phonegap build system instead. So this is camera.getPicture, and we're going to call navigator.camera.getPicture, and we're going to pass it some values. And it tells you which platforms are supported and which quirks. Everybody has its own quirk, and it gives you some examples of how to actually do this. Okay, and here's a full example, which my code here that I've copied is almost identical to this. All right, so this is the function that gets called if the photo is successful. This is the function that it calls if it's failed. Now notice I don't put the parentheses there. Why? Because it would fire that immediately instead of passing that function as a parameter to get called when something happens. So those functions are up here let's see, I'm going to go to on photo file success, which is up here. And this is the code that's going to happen. What happens is I get the actual data from the camera, and on a file it gives me a URI, a URL to where the image is on the phone. Okay, because the phone application saves it to the phone's file system, and the phone operating systems use URLs to get to the resources on your phone. So that image data is going to be filled up with a path directory to the file that got captured. Does that make sense? The actual picture that's stored on your phone system. So all I have to do is get the node in my HTML, and notice how this is not using jQuery. That's what I was starting to convert into jQuery. And it sets some styles, and then it sets the source to the image as the URL that I got. All right. So let's show how to do this. I've made my changes. I've downloaded it. I might make a change just so I have a change. I'll add a space here. And I need to commit this, first of all, to my GitHub repository. So in Git, I can say commit file, or I can just say yeah, it doesn't see any changes, so I have to make a change. I'll add a space. Control K does the same thing, and it says, okay, what do you want to commit? These are the changes. Remember, Subversion kept track of all the changes. I can make a comment like fixed some problem. All right? And I can commit or commit and push. So committing saves the file to my local repository. It doesn't put it out back up to GitHub. But for Phonegap to work, it has to be publicly available on GitHub. So I need to commit it and push it out to the GitHub site. So we say commit and push. Commit failed with errors. You're got to be kidding me. Git add. Interesting. All right, so let's explain what I did here. Phonegap creates a folder called .idea, which is not shown here. This is the folder that it creates that keeps track of all kinds of settings for your project, and we want to ignore that folder completely. So I created a new file called yeah, that's what I just said. PHP Storm creates this idea folder for the PHP Storm settings. Okay, git ignore then is a file that the Git version control system will read and ignore this entire directory. So I created a file, and it has to start with a period, git ignore, and I want to ignore the .idea folder / everything underneath the .idea folder. So then I want to commit my changes. It committed them already, so let me make a change. I'll add another space. All right, let's commit and push. Oh, you got to be kidding. Try it again. I know. It's committed locally. And it's ignoring spaces. So there we go. We'll try it again. Commit and push. There we go. We're going to push it. It's going to ask me for my login, and I can save this, of course. So my login is, I don't remember, Lockersoft, I think. Yeah, it's right there. It's 8 stars. Yeah. So all right, so it pushed my changes out, pushed my 2 commits, so I can see that. And let's go now. I can go straight to the Phonegap build system. Where am I losing all my stuff I just had? The heck? All right, so this is my application that I've created on Phonegap, just like I did last week. And this is if I click on that, I can say update the code, and it will actually pull then, because I've already set this up with the GitHub repository, just like last week. I can pull the latest data from the public GitHub account, and it's going to pull. Come on, pull. And automatically kick off a build for all of the different platforms. So it says pending now. It's building this APK file for my Android. All right. Then what I found the easiest, I was emailing it to myself last night, but the easiest is to open up a browser on your phone, go to the build.phonegap.com site, open up this file, and on the side, it's got, just like I would click on this APK here, I would click on that from my phone browser and download that. And once it's downloaded, I can click on the download, and it says complete action using, I want to use the package installer. And for security purposes, I always click just once, because I don't want it to automatically install stuff for other people. And I say replace application, because I've been doing this all night. I say OK, and it tells all the security things, what it's going to do. It has access to my location, my personal information storage, etc. And I hit install. Once it's installed, I hit open, and there's my file. It's got 4 buttons on it. So I'm going to click the one with the URI, and it opens up the phone. See that? The phone camera. Anybody see that? Sorry. Anybody see my phone camera? So I click capture. So I'll click it, capture you guys. Oops. Capture. And so there's a picture. In the next one, it's actually captured the photo. I can hit save. And the save then will save the file and call my on photo file success. It calls this function now, which sets the HTML in here. And you see it's a really small little picture, but it puts that picture in my HTML, and I can change the size and stuff with CSS. Isn't that cool? And these other ones from Photo Library actually lets me open up from Dropbox or from Gallery. I can pick an old file that I had. Here's a picture of some steak at the Wolf Lodge. Anybody ever go to that in Idaho? Good stuff. All right. And so there's a picture of a steak that I ate.
I didn't realize you were big into Instagram.
I love steak. I'm a vegetarian. I eat vegetarians all the time. So there's I can also go from a photo album, which is very similar, same thing. I can pick a picture, and there's my big picture. Isn't that cool? So very simple to add the API with the example code that they give you in the documentation. Now, they don't use any jQuery. They use all inline JavaScript because they don't want to be reliant on a specific package. But you could easily, theoretically, convert this to jQuery and do some jQuery stuff instead. Theoretically, right?
Well, some of those methods they're not like jQuery.
Yeah, so I'd have to, and that's what I was trying to do, is instead of doing an on-click, just give this an ID and capture, call that as a $, you do something like this, capture on click. You would do something like this, right? And so that's, and then I would give this guy, right, I give this an ID of capture. No? Oh, yep, there you go. All right, so you could do something like that and convert it to jQuery. I think it reads better. I like jQuery better, but in theory that should work. All right, so pretty simple to create using the Phonegap build system. And the problem comes in if it doesn't work. It's very difficult to see errors on the phone. I was trying to play with doing this console.logging to the phone, and I could not get that to work. There are some programs called, I'll give you a little bit of what I was searching for. Logcat lets you see the data if you do a console.log. you have to use this logcat system.
Is it related to Longcat?
Longcat? No.
Have you seen Longcat?
No. So there's some Android apps that let you read that file, because it does actually get written to some log file on the phone, but I couldn't get it to work. So I'll keep playing with that. Any questions on any of that? See how easy that was? No questions? All right.
Once we start working.
I'm sure.